What if the greatest poverty reduction in human history happened in just 4 decades? In 1980, China was one of the poorest countries on earth. Hundreds of millions lived in extreme poverty. Rural communities lacked electricity, infrastructure, and basic economic opportunity. Today, China is the world's second largest economy and has lifted over 800 million people out of poverty. How did one country achieve what many believed was impossible? This transformation is often called China's 40-year economic miracle, a period of rapid economic growth, industrial expansion, and technological development that reshaped global trade and global power dynamics. But this story is not just about economic growth. It is about political strategy, social transformation, and one of the most ambitious development experiments in modern history. The real question is not whether China reduced poverty. The real question is, how did it happen so fast? And why did China choose a development model that broke almost every economic rule Western economists expected? To understand China's rise, we must first understand how deep its poverty once was. In 1978, China was still recovering from decades of political turmoil, economic isolation, and underdeveloped infrastructure. Nearly 80% of China's population lived in rural areas. Most families depended on small-scale farming with limited productivity. Food shortages were common. Industrial output was minimal compared to global standards. China's economy was tightly controlled under a planned socialist system where private enterprise barely existed. Global analysts at the time did not expect China to become an economic superpower. Many believed the country would remain trapped in low productivity and slow growth. Then, in 1978, a new leader introduced a policy shift that would change global economic history. His name was Deng Xiaoping, and his strategy challenged traditional socialist and capitalist models alike. Deng Xiaoping introduced a radical idea known as reform and opening up. Instead of choosing between socialism and capitalism, China began combining elements of both. The first major reform targeted agriculture. Farmers were allowed to sell surplus crops in open markets after meeting state quotas. This increased productivity dramatically and improved rural income levels almost immediately. Within a few years, food production surged across the country. But agricultural reform was only the beginning. China then launched one of the most aggressive industrialization strategies in modern history. The government created special economic zones, including cities like Shenzhen, once a small fishing village that would soon become a global technology hub. These zones allow foreign investment, private businesses, and export-driven manufacturing to operate with fewer restrictions. International companies began building factories in China, attracted by low labor costs and government support. This transformed China into the world's manufacturing center. By the 1990s and early 2000s, China was producing massive quantities of consumer goods, electronics, textiles, and industrial products for global markets. Millions of rural workers migrated to cities searching for factory jobs. Urbanization accelerated at historic speed. China's integration into the global economy reached a turning point in 2001 when it joined the World Trade Organization. WTO membership expanded China's access to international markets. Exports exploded. Foreign companies increased investment. Infrastructure development intensified. China built highways, ports, railways, and industrial zones faster than almost any country in history. Economic growth alone does not eliminate poverty. China paired industrial expansion with massive infrastructure and education investments. The government launched nationwide programs to electrify rural villages, improve transportation networks, and expand public services. Education enrollment increased dramatically. Literacy rates rose. Vocational training programs prepared workers for industrial jobs. China also implemented targeted poverty reduction campaigns focused on remote and underdeveloped regions. Government officials were assigned specific poverty reduction goals and monitored through performance systems. By the 2010s, China faced a new challenge. Manufacturing alone could not sustain long-term economic growth. China shifted toward technology, digital infrastructure, and innovation-driven industries. China invested heavily in artificial intelligence, renewable energy, telecommunications, and high-speed rail networks. Companies like Huawei, Alibaba, and Tencent emerged as global technology competitors. This transition helped sustain economic expansion while moving millions into middle-income lifestyles. China's development model has sparked intense global debate. Some analysts praise China's poverty reduction as an unprecedented development success. Others raise concerns about political control, economic inequality, and sustainability challenges. Regardless of perspective, China's transformation has reshaped global supply chains, trade systems, and economic competition. China's rise demonstrates how state planning, market reforms, infrastructure investment, and global trade integration can work together to accelerate development. But it also raises difficult questions about governance, economic balance, and long-term sustainability. China's 40-year miracle is not simply a story of economic numbers. It is a story of how one nation restructured its entire society, economy, and global role within a single generation. The most important question may not be how China escaped poverty, but whether this model represents the future of development for emerging nations across the world. Because the story of China's rise is still being written, and its global impact is only beginning.